Hello rail fans, it's Sierra number 52 rail fan, SERA, the number sign 52 rail fan. So we're back on my G-scale layout of the Sierra Northern Railway. This morning have two 4-axle gen sets running light power from Oakdale to Riverbank. Passing a couple of storage sidings right now between Oakdale and Riverbank. We have some grain hoppers and some tank cars used to transport propane sitting here on storage. So this track goes all the way back toward my Oakdale yard there. So these locos are making their way to Riverbank. So today we're going to have a hill job, at least with these two locos. And they're going to heading to Riverbank to pick up, or not quite to Riverbank, I'm sorry. They're going to go to another storage siding where they're going to pick up their train. They're going to have to do some switching. So they're going to have to do some switching of some cars, shove some cars in and out of storage to get their train ready. And then the hill job will be underway. So the hill job primarily hauls center beam cars that transport lumber products, and tank cars transport liquid propane between Standard and Sonora, California. So these locomotives are off, and I'll probably film some of the switching duties, just kind of show you what those are, and then we're going to follow this train on the hill job today. So come along for the ride. So these locomotives are actually coming across a real wooden trestle that I believe there is an actual trestle that or a bridge that is crossed between Oakdale and Riverbank. I don't know that it's a wooden trestle, but on my layout I just have wooden trestles, at least at this point. So you'll find with my layout, I do use the same stretch of track. Like say if I want to simulate a Riverbank train, I use the same stretch of track to run my Oakdale to Riverbank and Riverbank to Oakdale train as I do for a hill job, meaning a hill job goes from Oakdale to Standard or Standard to Oakdale. So I do run over the same sets of track. So my layout's, I think, fairly large, just not that large. I may change that at some point in the future, but I can only do so much with the amount of real estate I have to place track. So right now it's passing a siding that has some of the cars that are going to be attached to the hill job today. So it's going to continue on its way, run around this train and pick it up from the other end and do some switching. So what's going to happen here is, this is actually a big Y, which I don't know that there's an actual Y in Riverbank, but I do know that there is a Y in Oakdale that can be used to turn locomotives, or at least there used to be. I'm pretty sure that Y is still open and functioning. I know sometimes it's blocked with rolling stock. Okay, the engineer has gotten in from the 2037 locomotive to the 2045. 2045 is now going to be the head-in locomotive. And I'm going to show you what this Y looks like. So if I have the main line blocked somewhere, then I can run around this Y to get onto the other side of the main if I need to do some switching. So that string of propane cars and center beam cars that you just saw the locomotives run by, those are actually blocking my main line in what I'm calling, for the purposes of this switching move, riverbank. And these locomotives have to go on the Y to get around the other end to actually perform switching. So that's what's happening at this point. So this is really a big, huge Y. This is not a small Y that you would normally find in a yard. I can turn whole trains on this Y if I want to. That's how long it is. So this Y also can be used as my loop if I want to do a continuous loop. The joys of outdoor G-scale layouts is nature sometimes gets in the way of the track. So I got to watch out for that, like twigs and rocks and such. So I actually just had to remove a twig from the track. Those are deadly to G-scale equipment because they'll certainly put it on the ground. So normally I take a leaf blower beforehand and blow off the track, but since that was done yesterday and we didn't have any significant weather, then I don't believe that needed to be done. Okay, so now we're back on the main, so to speak. So now the locomotives are going to back into what I'm calling riverbank for the purposes of this switching move. They're going to back into riverbank, pick up that string of cars, and do some switching before they actually head east to Oakdale. Okay, we're departing Riverbank, headed eastbound. So some of these cars will not make it up to standard. Between here and Oakdale, we're going to be swapping some cars out on a storage track. So some of these cars are going to storage, and then other cars will be added to the hill job. Okay, we're here at a storage siding. We'll call it between Oakdale and Riverbank, where they're going to switch out some cars here. They're going to pick up some center beams. So the center beams being stored on a siding along with some tank cars. But these tank cars, I don't believe there's going to be any switching of or dropping of tank cars at this location. So again, these center beam cars are custom made. While I think USA Trains does make some G-scale center beams, at least in my opinion, they are not they're not very prototypical, at least for the ones that are hauled on the Sierra. I know the bungee cords aren't very prototypical, but I haven't been able to find smaller ones. All right, we're going to do a hook and stretch. Nice thing about Katie's is you don't have to make sure the pin's dropped. And good hook, good stretch, red zone. Set and center. Okay, we're now back in these center beams onto the main. Good hook and stretch, red zone, set and center. Okay, so now the locos are going to peel off of these, its train. So what's going to happen here is the locos are going to couple onto the string of cars here on storage. Let's see if I can do this without having to manually move the couplers. Looks like we got it. Let's do a stretch. And good hook, good stretch, red zone, set and center. All right, air is, hoses are hooked. Air is going to go through the lines here. So I'm going to show you what we got going on here. So we have this string of tank cars, which are being stored here, along with these center beams. So 3 of these center beams need to be dropped and are gonna be attached to the eastbound hill job. So the only way to do that is for the locomotives to shove this train here on storage back onto the main and to drop these tank cars onto the main. And then what'll happen is from there, the locomotive will then respot these cars on storage, drop them on storage, get back out onto the main, rehook with the eastbound hill job train, shove that train back where those empty center beams are going to be spotted on the main, and hook up to the empty center beams there. Okay, conductor's on the point. It's going to direct the engineer to shove. They're going to shove about 7 cars back onto the main. So this entire string is going to be shoved. Okay, 1 car to the switch. Through the switch, 3 cars to a stop. Two cars, brakes being applied, 1 car to a stop. Half car, 20, 10, 5, that'll do. Handbrakes being tightened. Ahead, clear the main. So now switch is going to be lined for the main, and then the locomotive will continue to take these cars up and spot them back on the storage track. All right. So those cars are being left on storage. We're going to hook back on to the hill jobs train on the main, and shove and pick up those 3 center beams. Okay, so we're hooked back up on the main. Now the train's got to pull forward and roll rather than have the conductor walk all the way back. Train's going to roll forward to save time, and then when the rear of the train reaches the conductor, the train will stop, the conductor will get on the point, and the train will shove back and pick up the center beams. This is a common switching move to save time so the conductor doesn't have to walk the whole length of the train. And brakes are applied. Train's going to start slowing down. Okay, conductor is going to get on the point. And train's now going to shove. Probably good for 20-0. Brakes being released. And locomotive is now shoving the train. And got about 3 cars to hook, 3. Two more, 2. One big one. Half a car. $20, $10, $5. That'll do. Give me a stretch. Stretch. And good hook, good stretch, red zone. Okay, air is being released into the cars. And hill job's ready. They're going to do an air test and then be on their way. So if you're asking why did you put those cars on the rear of the train? Well, because really the first cars when you get to standard that need to be offloaded are the tank cars, the propane cars. So you need a center beam or 2 to be in front to act as a buffer car per FRA regulations, because these propane cars are considered hazmat. So you need to have a buffer car between the locomotives and a hazmat car. So these propane cars are the first cars that need to be unloaded, and there's only so much room at standard, so you can't have a whole string of center beams in front of the propane cars. Otherwise, you're going to waste a lot of time switching and having to shove the center beam cars elsewhere so that you can get to the propane cars. Also, a lot of times, center beams are dropped at Chinese, so I think sometimes they prefer to have the cars on the rear of the train dropped at Chinese. At least that's my guess. Again, if anybody really knows the reason, please comment below. But that's kind of what I've seen through following the Sierra Northern. So as soon as the air test is done, the conductor walks the train, then we're going to be ready to head eastbound.
Okay, so air test is complete. We are now headed eastbound towards standard. This is our hill job train. So you can see I have these yellow center beams here. So what I did is actually took the short USA Trains center beam cars and I would cut 2 in half and essentially put 2 together to make them long like the prototype. So again, I had to make those, but as you can see, they're long like the prototype cars, but they are a little shorter, which I think the prototypes, I don't know that there's a height difference. I think they're all pretty much the same, but these look a little more prototypical, long like they are.
Okay, so hill job's making its way into Oakdale, going past another storage siding where we have some hoppers that are being stored. So you're going to hear the word storage an awful lot in my videos. That's because on the prototype railroad, Sierra Northern makes a lot of their profit storing cars. Their main cars that they store are tank cars filled with liquid propane. That's their main storage, and as well as grain cars. But they have, I believe, 2 long sidings up in Warnerville, which I believe each siding can hold around 50 tank cars, and both of them are full, generally. So they store a lot of cars up at Warnerville, tank cars. I was told that they extended some sidings at Cooperstown to add additional storage for, I believe, tank cars, perhaps grain cars too. I'm not sure. I haven't checked that out. That's a recent addition to Sierra Northern. So this train's now going to be coming through Oakdale, and it's going to just proceed eastbound. So on the prototype railroad, it generally takes the hill job between 3.5 and 4 hours to get up to standard, or actually Fasler is what the railroad calls it, but it's actually in standard California. Okay, we've caught up with the hill job here at Warnerville. So they're leaving part of their train on the main. They're going to go to this storage track full of tank cars, and they're going to pull some cars out of there and attach them to their train, which means they're probably going to drop a couple as well. Good hook, good stretch, red zone, set and center. Okay. Looks like they left, looks like they cut into 1, 2, 3, 4 tank cars. They're shoving the 4 cars back on the main now to hook onto their eastbound train. And good hook and stretch. Red zone set in center. Okay, so it looks like they left one on their train, and they're taking these 3 back to the storage track. Okay. All right, so it looks like they left those 2 on storage, and they're pulling one away to hook onto their eastbound train. Okay, they're back in this one tank car onto their train on the main. So it looks like they're pulling ahead. Probably to, they're probably going to pull ahead per the conductor and then cut into this string of cars that they are pulling forward that's on their eastbound train, because they're only limited to take 5 propane cars up to standard. So at some point, they're going to have to cut in here and remove some and probably drop some here in storage. And I think we got our answer here. So the conductor's going to cut into the 4th car right here. Okay, so that's exactly what they did. Is they left 3 cars on their eastbound train. They cut in, they're pulling away 4 cars. So the 2 in front are the 2 cars they just picked up from the storage track. And these 2 UTLX cars were on their train. So my guess is they're going to drop these 2 cars onto storage. Okay, so now they're back in their train. Onto the storage track here. Okay, they're letting the air in the cars. The conductor's walking back to the point, which means they're gonna probably hook these 2 cars and these 2 cars with the one single tank car that's still left on storage. Okay, conductor's on the point, and they're gonna back up. They got about 3 cars to a hook. Okay. And good hook, good stretch. Red zone set in center. All right, so they're pulling these 2 tank cars away. These are the ones they picked up that were on storage. They've now left those 5. They're on storage, so they're probably going to hook these 2 back onto their eastbound train, and that will be their train headed towards Standard. Good hook, good stretch. Red zone set in center. And this is now going to be our eastbound train.
Okay, we've departed Warnerville with our eastbound train, and we're headed towards Cooperstown. From there, the train will climb Canyon Tank Grade to Hetch Hetchy, Keystone, and then on to Chinese. And we have one more switching move to perform at Chinese before we get to Standard or Fasler.
Okay, the hill job is now between Warnerville and Cooperstown. It's going to be going over a trestle here that's on the prototype railroad. It's called Dry Creek Trestle. On the prototype, it's a straight trestle. But in order for my railroad to make it up through the rocks and the hills, I had to make plenty of curves. Okay, we've just made our way through Cooperstown. Now we're starting to wind our way up through the horseshoes up Canyon Tank Grade. Hopefully this will give the viewers kind of a little bird's eye view of a lot of my layout. Again, I know viewers want an entire tour, but we're going to have to do that on another video. This video is about kind of following the hill job and showing their switching duties, which, as you see, there's quite a bit of switching that occurs on the hill job at various locations. Other than dropping off propane and lumber cars to be, or propane cars rather, to be unloaded and lumber cars to be loaded, they do perform several switching moves along storage tracks between Oakdale and Standard. So as you can see, this track was laid through a lot of dirt and rock. So this was solid rock and solid dirt until we laid tracks through here. So on the prototype Sierra Northern Railway, the top of Canyon Tank grade is Hetch Hetchy Junction. And we're coming into what I call Hetch Hetchy Junction. Okay, so we've made it through Hetch into Keystone. Now we're winding our way down the Red Hills. And on my layout, this is a downhill. So we're going to put on our dynamics. I also have an extremely long storage siding here, which, again, that's not realistic to the prototype, because they do not have a storage siding in the Red Hills, at least as far as I know. But that is where I had mine. So okay, we're now winding our way down Chinese Hill after going through the Red Hills. So again, here we come down Chinese Hill.
Okay, we're here at Chinese.
All right, so looks like we are cutting these two center beams off. So this last center beam is going to be spotted here at the mill at Chinese and dropped. All right, so we're dropping the one center beam off here and gonna hook onto our train and continue east to Fasler. Okay, the air test has been complete. We're going to be departing Chinese and headed for Standard. So we're now headed up the grade above Jamestown towards Sonora. And we will wind our way up into Sonora, then to Fasler. So you'll find that what I've built to gain elevation to get up to Fasler is a Tehachapi loop, basically. So we will follow this locomotive or this train as it goes around the loop so that you guys can get a bird's eye view of what that looks like. So as you can see, this is basically a Tehachapi loop. So we have arrived at Fasler in Standard. So in reality, or on the prototype Sierra Northern Railway, the trip from Oakdale to Fasler takes about 4 hours, depending on how much switching they have to do and so on and so forth. I can tell you that I think we started this day about 4 hours ago. So the way I have it set up on my railroad is it takes about the same amount of time, just because of the switching moves and everything else, if I time it right, to get from Oakdale to Fasler. So basically, what we're going to end up doing is we're going to be tying up here at Fasler. The hill job does that quite often, especially on Thursdays, and today's a Thursday. They tie up, and then they come down the following day on Friday. The reasons for that is because the JS West Propane Company, who they deliver propane to, apparently they get their deliveries on Thursday, so they want their cars there Thursday. And the lumber mill, that's also at the same location, does not load the center beams and have them ready generally until Friday morning. So the train brings up the loaded propane cars to deliver those, and then ties up for the night. And once the lumber cars are loaded and ready Friday morning, then it makes the return trip. So hope you enjoyed this episode. Gave you a pretty good idea of what the switching moves are on the hill job. Gave you a pretty good bird's eye view of my layout. So until next time, keep on rail fanning, and hope you enjoy the video.